Does anybody have any comments or requests from the floor?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. David Janke, 8428 Eastwood Road. Probably a month ago, I had requested something from and Chuck knows about it, Dwayne, I don't know if he discussed it with you on the Bell Ray and meeting the guidelines with the charter, meeting the Bell Ray going from, and I haven't got the exact figures, but I know it was 4 point something up to 6 point, and following every guideline of the charter regarding the 10%. Many citizens have asked me to follow up on this, and I said I would. And I had came to a meeting which you weren't present. Mr. Kupaimer was taking your place. Did you get any information from me on that?
Yeah,
I can answer that for you, David. I watched that meeting on TV from home, and there may be some confusion here. The 10% threshold that you refer to is in the chapter on public improvements. And what that simply means is that once a public improvement is approved, if the council is seeing an increase in costs on that public improvement, I'm talking about an assessed improvement, if there is more than a 10% increase in cost from the time of the hearings and adoptions, they must reissue. They must redo the public hearings and allow the community to have input on that. That doesn't mean that there would be a 10% threshold attached to a purchase such as the Bell Ray Ballroom. The Bell Ray Ballroom vote was an advisory election. It was not a binding election because there was no bond issue involved. So the 10%, yes, you're right. It does apply to public improvements in some instances, but not in the case of the purchase of the community center. Mr. Long?
That's correct.
Okay?
So, and a quick question, so that would differ from like when they were planning the bridge over Highway 10, and there was going to be an extra added cost, that's different than the Bell Ray Ballroom?
No, that's the same. That didn't come under Chapter 8 either, David.
But-
Only assessed projects. That's part of the assessment procedure.
Okay, then I watched the tape on that, Dwayne, and
Okay.
you brought that up to Mr. Linke about the 10% increase on the improvements on the bridge when they were discussing that, and said that it didn't fall within the charter guidelines.
I don't recall that conversation. I'm not certain.
Okay,
I'm not certain. I can't say that I remember exactly what I said or what the conversation was about. I suspect that, I don't know if there's a misunderstanding there or not. I do know what the charter requires.
okay,
Okay.
and like
Or I
said,
may have misspoken. That's possible.
Yeah, because I did watch the tape.
Okay.
And you did bring up to Mayor Linke, and I'm wondering, well, what's the difference here, you know? And,
It's possible, David, that I misspoke. There may have been a misunderstanding of what we were talking about. I don't know. If you make the tape available to me, I can watch it and then explain that to you.
okay.
If I erred, I would certainly own up to it.
Just some other things that I want to mention in the past couple of years before I leave. I want to comment on some of the better things that happened, but I do want to express that I was disappointed, number one, in the golf course deal. We settled a suit that I thought should have never went to court. We lost money. We paid the lawyer more, which the citizens didn't realize, paid the lawyer more than we won. The fee on utilities never did get reduced. It did for a while. There was a promise that, or not a promise, I'm not going to say a promise, but said that they were going to be reduced or taken off. That didn't happen. I was disappointed in the times when we, as leaders of the community, we sat up there and hollered at each other in the micromanagement case, throwing some papers. And, you know, maybe the letter we received, I don't know. I don't want to accuse anybody, but that letter we received, maybe we did need some micromanagement. I don't know if anybody investigated that letter to see what was going on in our village, but I hope in this continuing year that maybe we do check on things. I think strongly that communities have to be run more like a business. Everybody's got to be accountable for what they do. And maybe they have been, but I suspect there could have been some things different. Those were the disappointing things for me in this past year. So with the change, I hope we can look into some of these things and go forward. Thank you.
David, if I may, before you leave, ordinarily I would just let this go on by.
No, that's fine.
You know, but the thing is, I'm winding up 15 years in this seat. 8 years, I should say, 7 years as county commissioner. So I feel that I need to explain and try and clear up any misunderstandings. On the franchise fee, the energy tax, let's call it what it is. There was a time when I personally thought that we would have to adopt it at its 3% level again this year because of our projections for our estimates on the operation and maintenance costs of the community center mainly. Since that time, the administrator and our director of finance has found a way for us to maintain or stay on track with the phasing out of that energy tax. We're not off track, and we haven't forsaken our commitment there at all. At one time, it looked pretty dark and dismal, I'll admit, but we're back on track now. We set up a schedule where we're weaning ourselves off of that over a period of, I believe it's 5 years, if I'm not mistaken. Each 2-year period, it will be reduced another 0.5% until it disappears, which will give the city time to pick up that slack in revenues from other sources, most notably the property tax, where it ought to be, where it's visible, where everybody is tuned to it through the Truth in Taxation hearings. So we haven't forsaken that commitment at all. While it did look dark for a while there, we're back on track thanks to our staff.
So,
On the
okay.
on the issue of the letter, the anonymous letter that we received a week ago, and I suspect that I may not have been as clear as I should have been, or people may have misunderstood my position when I was asked if I was concerned about it, and I simply responded, not at all. What I should have said was not at all because, number one, it's anonymous. There's no way of tracking these charges down. The person that wrote that, if they don't have the courage to own up to their charges, then this council is hard-pressed to do anything about it. There's a very basic right in the Constitution that you as an accused person have the right to face your accuser. So for those reasons and many others, I didn't go forward on that issue. We cannot let our knees jerk every time we get an anonymous charge coming through the door. And I'll say it again. If the person that wrote that letter had the courage to come in that door, they would have had my full attention, I'm sure all of the council and the staff as well. Now, on the issue of temper flare-ups, I've thought about that a lot myself. But let me explain it from my point of view. And it's been both ways. I've done mine, I've had it done to me. I dismiss that immediately for this reason. Every person on this council has a commitment to this city. It's no fun, and David, you know very well the hard work that goes into a campaign. And it takes a lot of commitment, which means you're going to be on edge sometimes. And being human, we're going to fight for what we think is right with any means possible. But bottom line, when all is said and done, we take a vote. When the vote is done, we move on. So I take your comments well, and I just hope that you'll understand from our perspective that Mounds View is in good shape and always has been. And I'll say right here to you and everybody listening, I don't remember a council that ever served this city that wasn't totally committed. And I can remember some of the councils that I disagreed with almost vehemently. But bottom line, when all the smoke clears, I respected every one of them for their commitment to the city. Okay?
Okay, so let me answer that. I didn't say no one was committed, I just said the things that went on. One other thing I do want to bring up before I leave, and I don't want to dwell on this. I still maintain there's some problems with the golf course. I firmly believe if we do the accounting exactly to the T, the golf course, and I've always been against it, will not pay for itself. I firmly believe that we got a commitment that this community center was going to pay for itself. First they had the guy with the tennis guy, which I totally thought was coming off wanting to get some free stuff. We got the Children's Home Society that we had to get taken care of right away. But I remember, and I got tapes of every meeting saying that community center is going to pay for it. that guy got out right away. We're having trouble with community, or the Children's Society that I hear. I haven't got all the facts, that they now haven't made the commitments. And I'm going to tell you right here tonight, and I'm going to let the new council know, I will never believe that that community center will pay for itself.
Well, you're in a lot of good company there. At one
But
time-
the promise was it would.
Well, I think that perhaps we're interchanging the word with promise with expectation, reasonable expectation. I think the reasonable expectation was that the VB Diggs partnership would go through, and it looked good for a period of time. It was a reasonable expectation that we would be able to build a community center for much less than what we did. The number that was used on the construction of the community center was a compromise. The people that were for the community center and those that were not for the community center were at loggerheads as to what number should be used, because it was anybody's good, intelligent guess based upon the architect's estimates. And the reason being, those who wanted the community center very badly didn't want a high number out there. They were afraid it would fail. Those who didn't want it wanted as high a number out there possible, hoping it would fail. The way the decision was made from our perspective, at least from mine, was to take the architect's best estimates and use them as the input into the voting process or the advisory election. The construction situation itself changed to nobody's fault. There was the floods in northwestern Minnesota, the tornadoes most recently last spring in St. Peter. The construction companies really didn't even want the job, I don't think, because the bids came in so high. They couldn't even get help. They were bringing in, the construction industry was bringing in help from all around the country into Minnesota to try and get things done. Those bids did come in high, but we selected the lowest one of all of them. We did the best we could with what we had. Bottom line, we had a 2-to-1 citizens of this community to build a community center and to build one that would be serviceable for the long term and would serve the community in a way that we could all be proud of it. I think the council accomplished that. We may not have been able to maintain all of our expectations, and our estimates in some cases were way off, but it was done in good faith, and it was done with the clear knowledge that that was the direction from the voters. It was suggested to me after that election that I'd do everything I could to kill it anyway, even though I was opposed to the way it was purchased and all of that. And it was tempting, I'll admit, but not when I get a 2-to-1 vote from the direction from the community. When we take our oath up here, we're no longer our own persons.
Okay, and I accept what you're saying, but there's where I got the problem with the costs. I remember sitting with you at 2 to 3 meetings and saying, let's bowl those over. They want a new community center, and let's get a bid. Let's get a solid bid, just like we are doing where I work. We got a solid bid of what that was going to cost us. That did not happen because I personally believe, and I don't know if I don't think you can deny that, because, and I can see that point, is we wanted the Children's Home Society to have a home immediately. I think that was one of the reasons. To bulldoze that thing over and get a solid bid would have been the right thing to do when you're talking about expenses. When you're going from $4 to $6 million, nobody's going to convince me that that is a good decision. The commitment, I'm not going to argue, probably was there. But those types of decisions, and just like I told them at that meeting, the decision to sue on the golf course, when we rubber stamped everything, it was okay. How could we ever win that? You know who won that? The lawyer. He got the money out of that. When we built that golf course, I was against it. I don't believe that communities should be running businesses. I don't think, in most cases, going way back to the liquor stores, they've done a very good job. And I will never believe that that golf course will make money. And when we sued them, I think that was bad decisions. There's where I have the problems. When we build a golf course and they rubber stamp everything, we got inspectors that says, yes, this is okay and this is okay, and we turn around and sue, that's, I think, where the problem come in. But, you know, we could sit and argue about this all the time. I just wanted to voice my opinions. I do thank the things that you've done for the community. that I also like, so, thank you.
David, the reason we didn't bulldoze the Bellray over and start over from scratch, as many of us had considered very carefully, is the architect and the engineers told us that it would cost us a little over $100,000 more to do it that way, because there was structure in the building that was worth using and saving. Okay, that was the one issue. The golf course was there when we got here. We did the best we could.
Yep,
I'm sorry we didn't satisfy you.
no,
Okay?
right, and like I said, that was there. And I'm not saying these things started, now, some of them did not start now, but I just wanted to let my opinion be heard. And
That's fine. And my opinion is I've served on the best council I've ever served on right here in the last 2 years, and I'm proud of every one of them.
okay,
Thank you. Does anybody else have any comments or questions?
William Werner, 2765 Sherwood Road. Mr. McCarty.
Yes, sir. I thought I closed it. Okay, I'll close the public hearing. Sure.
just a comment to use, and I certainly, I'm not a smoker, I used to be, and I wish nobody would smoke, but we have to be careful when we say to an establishment, and I'm sure Charlie will, just with a letter, but we do have to be careful what we define as watching a machine and what we don't, because I read a case law where a person was taken to court and it was proven that as long as the machine was in the establishment and there was people, so you as a council, again, have to be careful. Is it illegal to have that machine where it is or isn't it? That's all I'm saying. The other part is that I know a lot of people that smoke and they all don't take drugs. So I just want to say that to this public, because the comment was made that people that smoke then go to drugs. I know older people in this village that smoke and they're not on drugs. So I wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jenkins. Any other comments from the public? Any other comments?
I just want to say that I did not intend to mean that just because you smoke, that it goes to drugs. I said, if I said it right, it leads to drugs and it can lead to a crime. Leads to it, can lead to it, not that it necessarily does.
Please, David.
Talking about a little common sense here, I remember an incident. Do you remember the incident where the water leak came out? The resident was supposed to pay for that water leak, and we all said up there, we're gonna use common sense, and the village paid for that water leak, or part of it. Do you remember that incident?
Yes, I do, and our insurance company turned that down as an act of God and not a insurable event.
And did the lady pay?
I
No.
assume. I don't know. I have no idea. I didn't follow up to see if she paid or what.
If I remember right, this council said that they were gonna use some common sense and take care of that because... So you don't remember a thing all of a sudden about this? Okay, that's fine. I'm just gonna make a comment. I just cannot believe, and they wonder why residents, I mean, I drive around this village, I've lived here for many years, and I see property that I can't believe it. And here, I live on Eastwood, and I drove by that driveway, and somebody does, and I know the circumstances, and I know where you're coming from, but my God, can't we use a little common sense? And that isn't, that, you can make a variance. That don't give an open door to everybody that needs a variance, because you use discretion. Just like when you're working for a company, you use discretion on every issue that comes up there. And I'm telling you, I can see why residents are upset. 901 vote deal and 500 another, and here we've sat and argued about a driveway that I drive by every day, and I thought, man, I cannot believe it. They're gonna stick to this. They can do a variance, but they're gonna stick to this because it's the law, and they say that, and I've seen other cases where that's a bunch of baloney. And I guess I have to leave because I hope this new council's got more common sense than that. I just cannot believe it.
Have a nice evening, David. I believe you're next, Dan.
Well, I'm an Irishman, and I'm going to be the calmest